So this episode reveals a hell of a lot when it comes to the Mushroom Keepers, what the Rust Eater is, which is what the name of this anime is based on, while also just kind of setting up the journey that we're about to experience. And in terms of like 3 episodes of what an anime is introduced to me, I stick by saying this is one of the freshest ideas that anime has seen, not only from this season in terms of new original shows, but even comparing the bangers of seasons we had last year. Like, this is what I would have picked if I was to make like a top 10 list in terms of most interesting things I enjoyed the most in terms of new series from even last year, if it aired last year. So, I mean, I would be shocked if come the end of this year, if this one doesn't stick out as among one of the best. In terms of the rust and the mushrooms, that's been something I've been very interested in because from what I could understand over 2 episodes, most likely the government was keeping some secrets, as most governments do. But I knew the mushrooms weren't going to be like the cause of the rust, that I thought that was just going to be government propaganda, and that could still play a part in it, but I like the idea that the mushroom keepers, these mushrooms feed on rust. So you'll have like 2 lone wandering adventurers who come in, launch giant mushrooms in your area, and people just naturally over time assume, oh, there's a large collection of rust and a giant mushroom. And we're seeing people summon mushrooms. And naturally, word of mouth is going to spread that they are the cause of the rust disease that is hurting so many. And I think especially for a government, it's very nice to have a scapegoat for things that are going wrong. You know, the poor people in the society that, unfortunately, we can't treat you because you're incurable. You can get away with those poor slobs that you don't want to take care of, which we very much got a taste of in the first episode with the leader of these bunny warriors, who basically told Doctor to say, hey, stop trying to fix poor people, come work for me, right? So it definitely is an interesting concept of basically people trying to save them because, one, there most likely is a cure out there in the form of the Rust Eater, a mystical mushroom that no one's really seen but only heard about. And granted, based on the injections and the treatment that we've seen so far, it does seem like it works, but it's not a cure just yet. And the idea of having mushrooms basically guard you from the rust so you don't get corrupted is a really interesting concept, and you can completely understand why people would be swayed by basically looking at it at face value. I mean, sure, if you sit down and talk with them, but when you see someone riding in on a giant crab and summon all these mushrooms, and sometimes they do, and then even if they're telling you to fertilize it as they're leaving, your natural instinct is to either kill them because based on logic, it looks like they're the one giving you the disease. But it's an interesting bait and switch in terms of what I thought they were going to do, because I thought it was going to be solely just like the government basically made the propaganda and the mushroom keepers are trying to save them. But the idea that it most likely started just because of just natural instinct. Just probably one person saw another person shoot a giant mushroom, look to the wall of horrible rust, and is like, hey, wait, did that guy just summon rust? And then it just kind of spreads like a plague, like rats running through New York City, right? So great to see how you can definitely still tell there's corruption on the government side, and of course, this government wants to keep the wealthy and the more important people alive, and the other people can die for all they care, while also setting a realistic reason on how that rumor could start and how powerful people could really take that and run with it. And I mean, it doesn't help the cause when you see giant mushrooms blowing apart the street. You hear your doctor, who literally is doing things for free, his building was blown apart by a mushroom. It ain't looking good no matter how you spin it, even though for the viewer and characters like Milo, we know. Though it does seem like the sister is probably going to have a hunch, because even though she was fighting who she thinks is a terrorist, the fact that he didn't shoot to kill but only knocked her out, Milo left all these different injections as well as the bracelet. I have a feeling that we might see her eventually in the journey trying to help them, maybe she'll be sent to track down the terrorists, and then in return she'll end up aiding them or something like that. But I think it'll be interesting because Jabi definitely seems like he's gonna die in a month's time. When he's talking to Milo in the sewer there, he's saying yeah, I have a month to live, even with how much you can treat me. Apparently he did have bullet wounds, but I think he definitely will die in a month's time, and I think he's very comforted by the fact that Milo can do the one thing that Bisco can't do, which is create the medicine. So even though he may not have been born into the role of a mushroom keeper, it kind of feels like the mushroom keepers can continue on. But the fact that he stayed behind, I think it serves 2 purposes. One, to make sure that he's going to have someone by his side that's going to survive the journey most likely, because it's probably going to take more than a month's time. I mean, they literally said in this episode, if one of your partners goes out, the other partner basically falls shortly after. So if someone like Jabi was to die during the mission, trying to find the rest here, I don't think he would have emotional ability to continue. Like, could you imagine a scene where Bisco is just like, Jabi die, and then, the military comes in to attack him? I don't think he'd have the energy to fight, because his whole reason is to cure Jabi, right? And it would be interesting if they did end up curing him, but it feels worse than it does for Milo's sister, but obviously you don't quite know, right? I have a feeling Jabi's going to be thrown in jail or something, and then maybe he'll get released because of the sister. It's hard to say. But I think the overall pacing and execution of this episode was just really spot on. In terms of my favorite episode, I think this might be it out of the three, just because we've had such a good taste of all the different elements, from the background details, the crazy creatures, the combat, where you can have a guy lift a goddamn motorcycle and throw it at you, to then switching to bow and arrow, to all these different unique combat styles, but then it just boils down into an interesting world that's been taken over by a bad disease, and most likely people know, because I'm damn sure there's more characters than just Milo who are speculating that mushrooms might be the key. Why else was he buying mushrooms in secret? That's literally illegal. But I think the government officials, there's some corrupted individuals who want to, keep the narrative going, make it have an easy scapegoat so all the shortcomings of society can be blamed on characters like Bisco, and people can just wish that they can be high up like some of the other high-class society members. I think this show is just chock full of originality. I mean, it's such an interesting show. I mean, you don't have too many shows where you can end an episode, you watch the credits or you skip them, whatever you do, and then you see this temple, right? There's this giant turret, you're getting some cultural lessons, and we're just chilling, and then the whole thing rises up like a giant goddamn tortoise, and I'm pretty sure that's a giant turtle with a turret on its back. And if I don't see Bisco riding that and firing it into battle, that will be a completely missed opportunity. This show is just awesome. It is anime through and through, but the characters and their hearts, they feel like they're in the right place. That scene of Bisco crying, genuine tears of happiness, seeing that Jabi's okay in that moment, and just seeing Milo part ways with his sister, knowing how much he cares for her. They both have someone they would do anything for, would die for a cure for their loved ones. And even though you have the comedic relief of Bisco being God damn, you're taking too long and freaking out, you need that type of relief on a journey like this, because if it's just nothing but tension, eventually you're gonna feel exhausted. So having that comedy, having that emotion, having that action, it feels like it's taking so many different elements that I love about anime, mixing them together into this grab bag of ideas, but it doesn't feel like it's sloppily done. It feels like someone with a goddamn vision who said, I'm gonna make a manga that is batshit crazy, and an anime team was like, damn, we're gonna make something equally crazy with our visual medium. And it's amazing. It's absolutely fantastic, and easily one of the best shows of the season in my opinion. I mean, if it wasn't for My Dress Up Darling, I would say this is the best new show of the season, not including sequels and carryovers. And if you know how much I love all the other shows I'm talking about, that's a pretty damn big compliment. But thoughts and feelings on this episode, theories if you have any. What do you think is going to happen with what's most likely a giant turtle with a turret on its back? If you have any thoughts, let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.